What is going on, everybody? James Hancock here. Just caught the new flick, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And I don't want to overstate the case, but I think it is Oscar time for Martin McDonagh because this movie absolutely blew my mind. I first saw the trailer a couple months back and very foolishly just disregarded it. I thought, at least from the trailer, that it looked like a pretty straightforward movie about a girl who is frustrated with the lack of justice for her murdered daughter and starts being real sassy and giving a lot of grief to the local cops. And maybe that was just me making up my mind prematurely, or maybe that was a poorly done trailer, but that tackles about maybe less than 1% of what this movie has to offer. This is just a staggering flick in so many ways. I didn't know this till I looked up the writer-director earlier today, but he's actually a very famous playwright. He wrote this play called A Behanding in Spokane, which I saw on Broadway back in 2010. I went to see it because it has Sam Rockwell and Christopher Walken in it, and I was absolutely blown away. But the world of theater and the world of film so rarely overlap, I didn't even really catalog Martin McDonagh's name at the time. Years went by, and I saw In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths, two movies that I thought were fucking amazing. And I don't know why my stubborn, idiotic brain didn't really put a check mark next to his name at that time, because In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths just have so much to offer and are well worth hunting down. But I really feel like this movie, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, is the movie that's going to open up the eyes of stubborn idiots like myself and make people realize we're looking at the arrival of a major filmmaker. People who are more observant than I might have already been saying, well, he arrived quite a while back, you just failed to notice. And that would be a fair point. I mean, this is the guy who won the People's Choice Award at Toronto International Film Festival this year because of Three Billboards. But if you're not familiar with the premise, essentially what has happened is that a year has gone by since the murder and rape and burning of a young girl, and the grief-stricken mother, played by the brilliant Frances McDormand, is absolutely infuriated that nothing has been done. And so she comes up with this scheme to rattle people's cages and puts up these three billboards, calling attention to the local police force and asking why nothing has been done. But this only serves as the catalyst for one of the most unpredictable and profoundly moving character-driven dramas I've seen all year. Maybe the most moving drama I've seen all year. I'm not one to cry in movies, but I will confess that there is a scene involving Woody Harrelson where I was genuinely choked up and misty-eyed. I don't expect to be more moved by a scene in any story the rest of the year. But once Frances McDormand's character sets these events in motion, we really get to know a wide range of characters in this small town. But the brilliant thing about this movie is how initially it sets a variety of traps that allows us as the audience to make up our mind about characters completely before we've had a chance to get to know them. And this is a thing that this screenplay does again and again, where it allows us to be complicit in ignorance and misunderstanding and blind hatred, and then allows us to see the consequences as anger and misinformation rule the day, leading to a variety of unintended consequences. And characters that we love, we learn to hate a little bit, and characters that we initially hate, we learn to love a little bit. And it was just absolutely beautifully told, beautifully performed. It's got weird, dark humor throughout it. I mean, you will be cackling wildly throughout, oftentimes due to inappropriate things that are being performed on screen, sometimes even horrible, violent acts that you'll still manage to find yourself laughing. But then the movie will absolutely just leave you slack-jawed by scenes of such heart, and you just feel yourself just aching for what these characters are going through. This is not something that happens very frequently in movies. Like, perfect example, like this past weekend, Thor Ragnarok came out, which I think is by far the most entertaining movie that came out all year. When you want a roller coaster with laughs and thrills and adventure, like, for a lot of people, that is what the movies are all about. And if you want that, go see Thor Ragnarok. But Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is that bona fide rarity where it's a movie that forces you to question your own assumptions and ideas without ever coming across as being sanctimonious or preachy or beating you over the head with a message. I mean, Martin McDonagh is a storyteller of incredible nuance and subtlety, but I don't think I was alone in the audience in being absolutely stunned at the end of the film, especially because even after we've learned over and over and over again how lashing out in violence over something you're angry about leads to horrible unintended consequences, people getting hurt that you don't want to see hurt, we still are on board with some characters as they are on the road about to go commit yet another act of violence, but they leave us hanging. We don't quite know if they're going to follow through with it, and they basically say, oh, well, we'll make up our minds along the way. I mean, it just shows how no matter what we learn, human beings are very reluctant to change. But I don't want to make this movie sound like it's nothing but Oscar bait, because even if you just disregard the Oscars, even if you don't give a crap about character-driven indie dramas or art films, whatever the case might be, this movie is just a deliriously entertaining flick, in large part due to Sam Rockwell and Woody Harrelson's extraordinary chemistry. And Sam Rockwell is one of those characters who initially is so easy just to write off as being just some mean hick cop who's up to no good. But he becomes one of the most fascinating characters in the story, if not the most fascinating character, because of the various changes that he goes through in his life. Not only for the ways that he tries to redeem himself, but also for the pity we feel for him when he repeatedly slips up and does something stupid or does something horrible. He genuinely has a hero's journey where he's trying to redeem himself for past acts. And we also see him on the receiving end, not once but twice, for some brutal violence. And a lot of people might say he's got it coming to him. And given some of his actions in the past, it's easy to make that case. But I defy anybody not to feel a deep swell of pity for him when you see him getting burned and kicked in the face. I love the old expression, often wrong, but never in doubt. And sometimes I fall into that category where I've got my mind made up about a great many things. And this is a movie that just keeps leading you by the nose and allow you to make up your mind on to show what an idiot you've been, and that both this story and life are full of incredible surprises. Some honorable mentions include Caleb Landry Jones, who's terrific in this. Abby Cornish is just on fire as Woody Harrelson's wife in this. The movie's pretty much extraordinary from start to finish. So the Oscar race is officially underway. I've got not a whole lot of contenders already on my mind. I won't claim to have seen all the films that might be considered Oscar worthy at this point. I got a lot of catching up to do. But if this movie doesn't win Best Original Screenplay, something's profoundly wrong. And I think a lot of the cast members will be up for Oscar nominations as well. And if the movie walks away with Best Picture, I got no problem with that whatsoever. So definitely check out this flick. It's only playing in 2 theaters here in New York this weekend, so I have a feeling it might take a little while before it reaches all the markets. But if you're a fan of character-driven dramas, this movie gets my highest possible recommendation. So thank you so much for watching this review. I really appreciate it. I always appreciate the support from my channel. I'd appreciate it. Subscribe if you feel so inclined. If you want to talk more, give me a shout on Twitter @Colbrax, or leave a comment in the comments below. And hope everyone has an amazing weekend. Talk to y'all soon.